list what I'm showing you today. Today, I will show you IPS national management, national parameters, and configuration for partners, and definition of your own offices, and routing plan, EDI configuration. So then maybe we have 5 minutes or 10 minutes break. Then I will show you local management, user management, and workstations management, and functions. Functions in the function screen, you can customize IPS scanning screen. I will show you some of examples. And the last part of this of today, I will show you some changes brought by IPS 2021, released last Friday. And you can stop me anytime if you have any question, or just write your question in a chat box. Okay, I don't have presentation, but you can reuse the presentation Mr. Taniyuchi created. Yeah, in my opinion, the presentation is the best one. So I cannot create better than that. So for the basic configuration of the IPS, it's same as IPS.post, so that you can still use you can use the presentation Mr. Taniyuchi created, and you can download it from the from the Google Drive. Ms. Yuyan shared yesterday. Okay, so I start with national management in the IPS. So I think you can see now. You see IPS main screen. Okay, so I go to there are a lot of tabs on top of the screen. First, I go to national management. Then I will show you national parameters. National parameters, there are a lot of configurations. I'll pick up some of them, which will be important for you. I double click. Just a moment. I will delete unnecessary things. The first one I can show you is that if you go to EMS tab, letters tab, parcels tab, you will see allow non-S10 standard identifier. So by default, the value is set as true. So it means that IPS never allows you to scan a non-S10, non-standard item identifier. Non-standard. If you try to scan a non-standard item identifier barcode, IPS refuse from scanning. But we know some country like France or Germany may send you item with non-UPU standard item identifier. In that case, you can set IPS to accept allow non-S10 standard item identifier. For instance, if you receive, sorry, maybe I told you, I think I told you that by default, the value was set as true, but yes, it does not. By default, the value is set as false. So it means that IPS doesn't allow you to scan non-standard item identifier. So by default, IPS set the value as false. Okay, so this is the default. Okay, but for instance, if some of your partner, like France or Germany, send parcels with non-UPU standard item identifier, you can set those values as true. For instance, if you want to scan, if you need to scan parcel with a non-UPU standard item identifier from France or Germany or other some of your partners, you can set this value as true. So now IPS allows you to scan non-S10 barcode for inbound mail item. And if you want IPS to give you a warning message when your staff scan non-S10 item identifier, you can select allow non-S10 standard identifier with a warning message and make it configure it true. And store. Then IPS will allow you to scan non-S10 item identifier with warning message. Of course, by default, yeah, it is desirable that you would set the value as false. But if you were really necessary to scan non-S10 item identifier, you can set the value as true if it is really necessary for you. But by default, all of the relevant values were set as false. So IPS doesn't allow you to scan non-UPU standard item identifier. Okay, and the other value, the other configuration I wanted to show you is, okay, if I go to EMS, in the EMS cooperative, you need to transmit EDI messages within 6 hours. You scan the event, including previous message. If I go to EMS tab and scroll down, so I go down. Sorry. Okay, just a moment. I bring this back to default value. Okay. So this one, max allowed duration without previous creation for EMS. So it means by default, it is set as 720 minutes. So it means that IPS does not generate a previous message after 12 hours. You close the dispatch. So IPS is waiting for 12 hours after you close the dispatch. Then IPS generate the previous message. Because in the standard, you must not send duplicated previous message. I mean, if you close dispatch, yeah, let me just rephrase. For instance, if you set the value as 0 and click OK. So if you configure like this, IPS generates previous message right after you close the dispatch. But just imagine if you reopen the dispatch and change the value, amend the value. For instance, if you reopen the dispatch, remove item or add item, then close the dispatch, IPS will generate another previous message on the same dispatch. But standards doesn't allow that. So this value is to avoid creation of duplicated previous message. So that we, by default, we set this value as 720 minutes, 12 hours. But according to the ES cooperative standard, it's too long because IPS doesn't generate previous message 12 hours after you close the dispatch, but it's too late for EMS cooperative. So that maybe you can just shorten the time. Perhaps you can set it as 120, 2 hours after closure of the dispatch. Then IPS just wait 2 hours after you close the dispatch. So when 2 hours passed, IPS generate previous message. And during 2 hours, you can reopen and close the dispatch again without generating duplicated previous message. Okay, so according to depending on the business requirement and your operational requirements, you can amend this value. Okay, those are the things I wanted to show you in the national management. So after you change the value, please do not forget click store. So then IPS stores the value you changed. Okay. Just let me check chat box. Okay, I don't see any chat. Please stop me anytime if you have any question. I assume there's no question, I guess. So I go to the next. Next one is partners. In the partners configuration, you can set country-specific values. So under the national management, you can find partners tab and just right below the partners, you see mail services. So from this screen, you can set country-specific values such as a maximum item weight, or maximum mailbag weight, or maximum insured value, and so on. If I open the default, you see the default value out of box, default value set by the PTC. So if I click mail category A, airmail, so here are default values for EMS service, and the default values for letters, and the default values for parcels, for airmail. And if you do not set country-specific values, default values will be applied for all of the countries, unless you set country-specific values. So that we would recommend that you would set general values on the default over the default value. For instance, in general, if you accept, maybe yes, I go to parcels for example. If you accept insured service, but in general, you accept 3,000 SDR for as maximum insured value, you can set 3000 SDR as your maximum, general maximum insured value. Then this configuration will be applied all of the countries unless you set country-specific values. So it's same for letters. If you accept insured mail, and in general, you accept just maybe 2000 SDR as maximum insured value, you can set 2000 SDR as maximum, general maximum insured value, then click OK. And this value will be applied for all of the countries except for listed countries. Okay. And so for this configuration, you need to restart IPS. Then the amended value will be take effect. And important aspect in this configuration screen is that you can set transit countries. For instance, I installed IPS as Bosnia and Herzegovina. In case Bosnia and Herzegovina send ordinary mail or insured mail or registered mail to, for instance, if in case Bosnia and Herzegovina sends ordinary mail to Switzerland through Germany, for instance, they can set country-specific value for Switzerland. To set country-specific value, there are two ways. The one is create country-specific configuration from scratch by clicking New. Then select country and select mail category and select, and you need to put all values from the scratch. This is one of the ways. And the other way is use default values, copy default values. So I have already set general default values, and you can copy it and reuse it for country-specific values. I select countries, I select default value, then click copy. So you see most of the values I set. Okay, I cannot go, but the values I set for default will be copied to this screen. If I set Switzerland, then set category airmail and select. And if I go to letters, you will see 2000 SDR as maximum insured value. So that way, you can copy some values to other countries. You don't have to set the values one by one. Yeah, if you want to use similar values for other countries, you can copy the screen, then change the country, and you can apply the similar values for other countries. Okay, so I said that Bosnia and Herzegovina send mail item letters to Switzerland through Germany, Germany open transit. open transit by German Post, Deutsche Post. In that case, you need to set Germany as transit country. So you can select transit country from the box, or you can directly type the country 2 letters, ISO 2 codes. In case of Germany, it's DE. So if you type just DE, IPS select Germany. For the print CN65, you should not check the box for final destination, because you are printing and send a CN65 to Germany. Okay. And you can do the similar for parcels. If Bosnia and Herzegovina sends a parcel to Switzerland by Germany open transit, you need to select Germany. Or different, If Bosnia and Herzegovina use transit service by Austrian Post, you can select Austria. So likewise, you can select transit country in this partner's configuration screen. And stop. Okay, I configured that Germany as transit country for the mail going to for the letters going to Switzerland. So it's in that case you will need to print CN65 at least during the statistical period. To do so, you need to configure IPS to print CN65 for Germany. To do so, I will use default value to set a country-specific value for Germany. I select mail category A and click copy. Then I can copy the value I set for I set as default value. I select Germany and mail category A and select. So I go to letters tab, and this time I don't set transit country because Bosnia and Herzegovina send dispatch to Germany directly. So there's no transit country, but I need to print CN65 statistical or CN65 non-statistical. If you tick print CN65 statistical, IPS will print CN65 during statistical period. This year is 2021. It's odd year. In odd year, a statistical period is May. During May, this year, IPS would print CN65, and next year, IPS will print CN65 statistical in October. Next year is even year, so that the statistical period is October. And if you would like IPS to print every time you have open transit letters, you can tick CN65 non-statistical. IPS will then print CN65 non-statistical every time you have open transit letters. Okay. So it's a little bit complicated, I guess, but we can review the video. And if you have test environment, you can test it. I store. Okay, I need to restart IPS to to store the configuration. Okay, I exit. Then I will start IPS. Okay, now the configuration I did were applied. For the open transit, it is not enough if you set partners. You need to set open transit country groups and rate associated to the group. So to do so, you can go to accounting process, and under accounting process, there is rate management. And here is adequate open transit. And here you see adequate country groups and adequate transit charges. To make IPS possible to generate CN65, when you have open transit letters, you need to set both country groups and transit charges. So first I set country groups. For the country group and the rate, you can refer UP website. Just a moment. I will open UP website, then show you where you can find it. So I guess, if I remember correctly, it's under Postal Solutions and Programs and Services. So this is the main page of UP website. Then you go to Postal Solutions and Programs and Services. And so just a moment. Okay, let me open UP website in the new tab. So it's under Postal Solutions and Programs and Services. Okay, now I see the full list under Programs and Services. And in the middle, there is a remuneration. Under remuneration, there should be something like transit compendium, transit charges. In transit charges, if I open transit charges, there is a transit compendium. Okay, I click transit compendium, and you can download the transit compendium for this year. If I download it, you need to log in using your own username and password. Then you can download the transit compendium 2021. After you download transit compendium, you can see country groups and the rates associated to the group. Okay, I go back to the IPS. Now I want to use Germany as transit country, and I need to set a country group. And country group and transit charges associated to the country group of through transit service through Deutsche Post, Germany Post. To check that, I go to maybe I will magnify it. I put, okay, I need to select Germany. there is filter. I select, yeah, I type DE. Then then compendium just shows transit groups from Germany. And if Switzerland is belonging to transit country group 1 of Germany, Deutsche Post open transit service. So I open addressable transit groups and click new. And transit country is Germany. I type DE. Then mail category airmail. And here is adequate group. So you can select adequate open transit group up to 10 groups, up to group 10. And Switzerland belongs to open transit group 1. So that I select group 1. Then here I select just Switzerland. I select Switzerland, then click this button, like arrow, and store. Of course, you can put other countries in the list. Then store. Okay, and exit. So after that, I need to set rate for the transit country group 1. I go to the next screen and open it and click new. And transit country is Germany. I type DE and mail category airmail. And here is the validity. It's valid from January this year until December this year. Then I put rate. For Germany, transit group 1, Germany charges 7.962. So that I type 7.962 and click OK. Then store. So now I'm ready to print CN65 when I have open transit, when I have airmail to Switzerland through Germany. Okay, oh, okay. I see some in chat box. Okay, the first one is PREDES. PREDES is pre-dispatch advice. It's electronic EDI message equivalent to a dispatch document. So the PREDES contains all of the dispatch information, including dispatch number and receptacle mailbag ID and item ID in the receptacle in the bag and weight of the item. And PREDES contains dispatch information in the dispatch document, and it contains all of accounting information. So this is an electronic message dispatch pre-advice, and since this is the electronic message, used for accounting purpose, because it contains all of the necessary information for the accounting. So on the tomorrow and day after tomorrow, I will show you how PREDES works for inbound process and accounting process. Because IPS uses PREDES data, IPS checks the scanned inbound scanning value against received PREDES value. Yeah, I will show you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow how PREDES works for inbound operation and accounting. So basically, PREDES contains all of the information you have in the CN31 or CP87. And it contains all of the necessary accounting values, accounting information. Okay, next one is Open Transit. Yeah, this is automatic. You don't have the odd or even year setting for CN65. You just need to select. Maybe it's better to going back to national management. And yeah, mail services. Okay, if you use Germany as open transit country for letters, I open Germany and mail category A, airmail, and to go to letters tab. In the middle, there are two selectivities relevant to CN65. If I select like this, if I select print CN65 non-statistical, IPS prints CN65 every time you have open transit. If I select print CN65 statistical, IPS automatically prints CN65 during statistical period, depending on the year. So, if I set IPS like this, and IPS will print CN65 statistical in May next year, because in October next year, because next year is even year, so that statistical period is October. So this is I would say this is half automatic. If you select print CN65 statistical, IPS automatically prints CN65 when statistical period comes. For this year, it was May, and the next year, it'll be October. So it's automatic. Do you have any other questions or comments before I go to the next? Of course, you can, you can review the video. It's already, okay, I have another, okay, yeah, should be okay. It's already quite complex, I guess. But we will have a break in 20 minutes. So next one is okay. We have still a lot of things. Okay, next one is define offsets. Okay, to define office in the IPS has already defined exchange offices in the list of UPU code list 108. It's quite famous list. Maybe it's. I think it may be beneficial for you if I show you where you can find the UPU standard code list. So okay, I start from the main screen, main page of the UPU website. Then I will show you how you can find, where you can find UPU standard code list. To find the UPU standard code list, you can go to Postal Solutions. And okay, under Postal Solutions, you see quick access and standards. If I scroll down and to see the left-hand side, here is SCMS, Standard Code List Management System. So if I click this, it automatically scroll down and give me lead me this screen. And here is a Standard Code List Management System, SCMS. I click, you can click this, then you will find all of the UPU standard code list. So I mentioned that 108. So here, this is the it's quite many people know that this is IPSC code list, a list of exchange offices. If I open it, you will see all of the exchange offices in okay, yeah. So here is the code list. Here is the list of exchange offices. So in case of and you can maybe you can download the list in the Excel file, for instance. And if you download it in Excel file, it's quite easy to filter it. And once I download it in the Excel file, you can open in Excel sheet and you can put filter like this. Then you can sort or extract anything. So if you would like to see, for instance, if you would like to see exchange offices belonging to Thailand post, belonging to Thailand, you can select, you can filter just Thailand post and OK. Then you can see the IPSC exchange offices belonging to Thailand post. So based on this, IPS has already had a list of exchange offices. If you open national management and own offices and offices and office types, by default, IPS has a list of exchange offices based on the code list 108. And what you need to do is you need to add your own office, domestic offices. So in case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, actually there are 3 operators in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Just a moment, please. So okay, let me select all. Then Okay, yeah. So yeah, I just want to filter by operator code. So I filter by BA. Okay, in case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, they have 3 operators in one country. So in my case, I installed IPS as BAA, the first legacy operator in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this operator just has one exchange office in the UPU code list 108. So that in the IPS, by default, it had only BA, SJJA, Sarajevo, but I added other offices. Okay, so to add your own office, your domestic office, you can click New. Let me open chat. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Deli, for compliment explanation for the Preda's message. Yes, Preda's is a pre-advice of dispatch. Yeah. Thank you for this. And to create your own office, you can click New and put code. The code is very important. I mean, if you have participated in the EMS pay for performance or parcel groups measurement of delivery time, they use the code for validate your delivery time. So this code must be the same as the code validated, office codes validated by EMS cooperative and parcel group in the UPU. So if you put other than validated code by the EMS cooperative or parcel group, the performance, your performance will not be measured, so that you may lose a bonus if you put code other than validated code by EMS cooperative or parcel group. So that you will need to check with your the person in charge of EMS or parcels to check if the code in the list are exactly the same as the validated code by EMS cooperative or parcels group. Otherwise, the items delivered by not validated office will be non-measurable, and you will lose the bonus. So that's just assuming that the code BA001 was validated by EMS cooperative and parcels group. Then you can put the same code validated by EMS cooperative and parcels group, and put a name. And click OK. So other fields are optional. You don't have to put. So I put office code that is exactly the same as the office code validated by EMS cooperative and parcels group. Then you select office types. So there are many office types. Airmail facility, customs office, mail processing center, exchange office, and postcode, point of delivery, and point of lodging. So in case, this office delivers the item and it was validated by the EMS cooperative or parcels group, you can select point of delivery. And if this office also provides customers with accepting service, if this office is a point of lodging, point of acceptance, point of booking, you can tick POL, point of lodging, point of acceptance. And then you will need to select the next office. So next office is that, if this office can send selected mails to those offices. So if you want this office to send items to maybe exchange office, and directly you can select exchange office as next office. And you need to select mail subclasses that office handles. So if this office handles all of the mail except for empty bag, you can select all, except for empty bags. And you would need to, if this office is delivery office, you need to select this office. You may need to select this office as next office from exchange office. Otherwise, exchange office cannot send item to this office, to the delivery office in the IPS. I will show you in the tomorrow how you can send the item to the next office. But unless you set this office as next office of Sarajevo, you cannot send any item to this office. So to do so, to set BA001 as next office of Sarajevo exchange office, you need to select BA-SJJA. Then select BA001 as next office. So then BA-SJJA, which is exchange office, can send item to BA001. So most likely inbound items. So now I select Sarajevo BA-SJJA, which is Office of Exchange in the list of UPU code list 108 BA-SJJA. So it has been configured in the IPS out of box by default. And if this office has a customs office inside of the office, you can select customs office. So if the in many cases your exchange office has a customs office, in that case you need to tick customs office. You select your office, exchange office, and if your exchange office has customs office, you need to tick customs office. And this configuration will be applied in the if you open customs, and for instance, if I open EDB, present items to import customs. So if I click drop-down menu, drop-down box, you see two offices. These two offices were set as customs offices in the office configuration screen, office and office type screen. So I set this office and which one? Which was the other one? Yeah, I set BASJJA and BNXA as customs office, and this configuration will be applied on the customs relevant screen. If you go to customs, for example, if you open present item to import customs, and if I click drop down menu, you can see customs office I configured in the office screen. Unless you configure the customs office, you don't see any customs office. Okay. Okay, yeah. Do you have any questions so far? I don't see any in chat box. So let me go further. Okay. Routing plan. Maybe after routing plan, I would suggest that we have a short break after routing plan. Then we start. Okay, a routing plan is a fundamental configuration when you create for creation of the dispatch. Unless you configure routing plan, you cannot create any dispatch. To configure routing plan, yeah, it's under national management. And here, okay, under national management, there is routing plan tab. And you can directly create a routing plan under international tab and air and cell routes. Okay, route consists just one segment, just one transport or multiple transports. So, for example, I think there are some routes. Okay. Those routes just contains one segment, one flight. So if you use direct flight, you can just put the single flight. But if you use direct transshipment, several flights to send your dispatch to the destination, you can put multiple segments, multiple flights, or multiple truck or multiple ships. To set route, new route, you can click new. So route is the route between origin office and destination office. First, you need to select origin office. Then select the destination office. So let's say it's from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So maybe. So I would like to send. I would like to create a new route to Australia, for instance, AU Sydney, with multiple segment, multiple flights. First, you need to set origin office and destination office. The origin office is BASJJA. So it's coming from UPU code list 108. And the destination office is also coming from UPU code list 108. And it's in the IPS already. I select two offices, origin and destination, then select mail category and select mail type, transported by this route. So after that, you need to select segment, select flight. There are two ways to create flights. One is you can create flight manually, and the other is a select flight from OAG, Official Aviation Guide. So to use Official Aviation Guide, first you need to download Official Aviation Guide from our website, then import the CSV file to the IPS. Today, I will create transport segment manually. So let's say, yeah, I will send mail from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Australia through, for instance, maybe, yeah, let's say Frankfurt. So the first flight is from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Frankfurt, and the second flight is Frankfurt to Sydney. So I set two flights. First, I set there's no flight from Bosnia, no existing flight in the IPS from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Germany. I create a new flight from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Frankfurt. I put carrier code like Lufthansa and the segment. Of course, segment must be a real one, but just for demonstration purpose, I use a dummy segment, dummy flight. And billing carrier transport contract code, they are optional field. You can skip them. Then I put origin. It's Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the location, Israel. And the destination is Germany and Frankfurt. And here you can set operation dates. If the flight is daily flight, you can tick all. And if it is not daily flight, you can exclude some of the dates of the week. And you put departure time and arrival time. And if the flight arrives, maybe, yeah, if the flight departs 8 a.m. today and arrives at 10 a.m. tomorrow, you can put you can put 1 as day after. So then IPS recognizes that this flight is arriving at 10 a.m. of the next day. Then I click OK. So I create one flight. Then select. Here is also important parameter you need to consider, because yeah, it configures dispatch closure time. Dispatch closure time. I mean, if you put a pre-segment delay from the left, this is the day and hours and minute. If you set all 0, the dispatch closure time will be resulting at the same time of the flight departure time, but it is not possible. You need to create and close the dispatch several hours before the flight departure time. For instance, if you need to close dispatch maybe 8 hours before the flight departure time, you can put 8 in the field for hours. Then dispatch closure time will be changed. So now the dispatch closure time is 8 a.m. It's same as flight departure time. But if I put delay, 8 hours delay, so it changed to 0 a.m. So it means that dispatch closure time is 0 a.m. and the flight departure time is 8 a.m. So by doing by this, you can control dispatch closure time. Okay, now I set the first flight. Then I set the second flight from Frankfurt to Sydney. So the process is the same. First, you need to click search. Okay, there's no flight. Yeah, I need to create flight from Frankfurt to Sydney. I put carrier code FH and origin is Germany, Frankfurt, and the destination will be Australia, Sydney. So same as the previous flight, you can set operation dates and departure time and arrival time. So this time I put arrival time as 10 a.m. of the next day of the departure date. And okay, select. For this, yeah, it looks like that you can set place segment delay, but for the second flight or third flight or following flight, you don't have to set any values. So then IPS recognizes that there's 2 flights in one route, and you can put more flights if you need. Click next. So here is operating days. If you close the dispatch every day, you can tick every day. But if you don't close dispatch, for instance, on Sunday, you can exclude Sunday. Then I click OK and store. Okay, now, yeah, I'm ready to create a dispatch to Australia. So unless you create a route, yeah, you cannot create any dispatch. Okay, before the break, I will show you another possibility to create segment, create flight. So in the IPS, you can import the flight from OAG, Official Aviation Guide. Here is a screen to import flight from OAG, Official Aviation Guide. And Official Aviation Guide, you can download Official Aviation Guide from, again, UPU website. To do so, you need to go to, you need to log in. You need to have a username and password. So I log in a private part of the UP website. And on the Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's not quite straightforward. Yeah, if you click postal solutions, then on the right-hand side, you see private tab. So if you click private tab, after that, you will see in the middle, you see my products. If I click my products, you will see PTC products. And for IPS relevant things, you need to go to IPS knowledge base. Then you have OAG, Official Aviation Guide. And if you click on this link, you can download Official Aviation Guide. So it contains all of the commercial passenger flights. So we update Official Aviation Guide once a month. And you can import the Official Aviation Guide to the IPS using this screen. You download Official Aviation Guide and open this screen and browse the CSV file. Then import. So by doing so, you don't have to create the flight, but you can just select flights from the Official Aviation Guide. For instance, yeah, just give me 1 minute before the break. I think I have already imported. Oh, okay. There are a lot of flights. So anyway, if you simply put origin country and destination country and click search, IPS shows all of the flights that match the criteria. And you can just select and import to the IPS and capture and update segments. Then IPS will take the flight. So this is another way to import to create the flight in the IPS using the Official Aviation Guide. Okay, let me check the chat. There is nothing on the chat box. Okay, if you agree, let us take 10 minutes break. And I will resume the session after 10 minutes. Okay? Okay, see you in 10 minutes. I resume the session in 10 minutes. On time. So let me resume. So yeah, I will show you EDI configuration and user and workstations, functions, and new features in the IPS 2021 if we have time. So first I come to EDI configurations. Okay, in the IPS, unlike IPS.post, you need to set partners and EDI folders and EDI schedules. So first, you will need to set partners in the IPS. Partners for item level and dispatch consignment level and carrier level. So in the item level, you can configure EDI partners for EMS EVT, item level EDI message. So if you tick the box like this, so it ticks all of the boxes under this box. Okay, but maybe it could be a common mistake. There are two versions of EMCVT, like Mr. Taniyuchi explained yesterday. So if you tick all, IPS put all. So it means IPS generates both EMCVT version 2 and version 3 for the same destination. And if IPS generate and send, the two versions of EDI message to the same destination, you will be charged double. So that's, you need to, just select one of the versions of each mail classes. And just for your information, in the new IPS 2021, in the IPS 2021, EMS EVT version 2 will be disappeared. So that in the new version of IPS, you don't have to worry about, excluding the old version of the EMS EVT. So it will automatically be excluded from the next version of the IPS. And one thing Mr. Taniyuchi mentioned, that you may exclude unnecessary event, optional event. For instance, in the EMS, G event, arrival at delivery office, is not mandatory. And if you do not want send EMG event, you can exclude. Okay, I show you from the beginning. So here is EMS, and I open the plus button. And here, here is arrival at delivery office. If you don't want to send EMG event, you can exclude it. Then you can save some money. So likewise, you need to check. This is kind of a one-off setting, but you need to check. You need to configure all of the countries. So it's similar for dispatch level, consignment level. So for example, Austria. If I tick the box and open the box, and if I open EMS, for instance, so it ticks everything, including old EDI message, such as PREDES 2.0. This is the old one, and you shouldn't send. So you shouldn't send, the two versions of PREDES message to the same destination. So you should exclude PREDES 2.0. So that way you can avoid sending, it's not duplicated, to avoid send two versions of the PREDES message to the same destination. And you can, of course, you can save a little, some money. And it's same, I mean, in the IPS 2021, PREDES 2.0 will automatically be excluded. So you don't have to worry about this once you upgrade to IPS 2021. So this is the partnership setting. And the other important thing is EDI schedule. So here, the third screen. So you can select you can set common schedule, or you can set separate schedule for input and output. And if I go to setup, so as Mr. Tanyonchi said, maybe you can set 2 hours. Every 2 hours, IPS runs EDI generation service, and every 2 hours, IPS generates EDI message. Then put the EDI message to the specified folder. And by your depending on your needs, you can set common schedule for both input and output. And if you need to separate the schedule, you can define a separate schedule for input and output. And here you need to set input and output folders. And these folders, it must be the same as folders you set in the PNG, postnet gateway. So, so here is PNG. Okay, IPS, IPS generates events, and then PNG will transmit the generated. Let me rephrase. IPS generates EDI message, and put EDI message onto this folder. Okay, and PNG takes EDI message from this folder and send EDI message to the network. So this is the one of the biggest roles of the PNG. And other way around, a PNG receives EDI message, then put the received EDI message on the specified folder in the IPS, so that the folders in the PNG must be the same as the folder you set in the IPS. So for the download folder, it must be the same as received files. And for output upload folder must be the same as output folder. So this is the principle of configuration of the folders, EDI folders, in the IPS and the PNG, postnet gateway. And the other thing in the postnet gateway is service schedules. So in the PNG, PNG downloads the file. PNG downloads EDI message every once every 60 minutes. And for upload, transmit EDI message to the network. So PNG transmits EDI message to the network once every 60 minutes. So you need to set, EDI message generation schedule frequency and EDI message transmission schedule in the PNG, and they must be linked. So this is the important point for system administrator to consider. Right. Okay, so then I go to, okay. Okay, next I go to user and workstations. So for users and workstations, I mean, by default, you see all of the screens, all of the functions in the IPS. But many functions for operational people, for operational staff, the management parts and accounting parts will not be necessary to be shown. And it should not, IPS should not show unnecessary screens to avoid misuse of the functions. To control the access, you can open national management and system and functions. Sorry, this is the next subject. Yeah. So you need to go to national management. The folder is the same, system, users and workstations. The first thing you need to do is to create user groups. For instance, in the user groups, you can associate a created user group with IPS functions. So let me create a new user group, which is parcel outbound. Okay, I created one group, parcel outbound store. So then I click, I select parcel out and click associate IPS functions. So by default, nothing is associated. So here you can select the IPS functions you want to associate to the group parcel outbound. So for parcel outbound, I want to associate the minimum set of the functions. So scanning EMB and scanning EMC, and the creation of consignment. And track and trace. And utilities for reprint the forms. And this is just for myself, local management, because if I don't associate users and workstations, I lose control. So maybe it's good to minimize. Okay, the parcel outbound, this user group should only see parcels, a part of functions under parcel, and all merit classes, track and trace, local management, and utilities. I store it. Then I go back to users. Now I log in as this user, internal / Kamishiro K. I associate this user, I select this user, and here, IPS user groups. I can select a user group to be associated to this selected user. Now I was associated to the default user. Default user has a right to access to all of the functions. But this time I switch to parcel outbound and store it. And restart IPS. Exit and restart. Then I will see a very limited number of functions in the IPS. So that way you can control access for your staff. They can access to only the necessary functions in the IPS. It's really simple. I can just access to the outbound parcel scanning EMB, EMC, and all mail classes create consignment and track and trace, and utilities to reprint the forms. And this is just for management part, because I need to go back to default. So let me go back to default screen, the screen that has all of the functions. So to go back, I select my username, then associate user group. I switch from parcel outbound to default and store. And store. Then restart IPS. Then I will see all of the screen, all of the functions. Okay, now I'm coming back to administrator. The other thing it's good to remember is that if I go to, if I reopen users and workstations, and if I open and click edit, so you see maybe at the bottom of the screen, you see this user is admin. So admin is a right to personalize the display. So if I click, if I select my user, then click. So it shows, it says that it allows personalize the display. So it means that you can change the order of the column of the of many screens. For instance, if I go to track and trace and item track and trace, and maybe okay, so if you have if you configure as admin, you can change the order of the column, or you can add and delete, add and remove the columns. To do so, you put cursor on the title of the column, then right click, then you see personalized display. I click it, then you can see in this screen, you can add, remove the fields, or you can change the order. For instance, if it is not necessary to see local ID, you can exclude, you can remove local ID. But maybe it's good to have, which one is good? Maybe origin country. If you want to expose origin country, you can select origin country and add it to the columns, and you can change the order. If you want to expose origin country just beside identifier, you can change the order, then store, and change the configuration will be applied to the screen. So if you were configured as admin, you can change the order of column, or you can add or remove the fields, the columns. So this is the one it's good to remember. Maybe I think we don't have time to demonstrate the functions, but let me just okay, here's chat box. Here's one thing. Okay, for CN65 non-statistical. Yeah, because tomorrow I will demonstrate outbound process. I will show you how you can print CN65 non-statistical. So let me do it. Let me do it today. Sorry, tomorrow. Yeah, put my note. So I do CN65 non-statistical tomorrow. So let me lastly let me show you the new functions in the IPS 2021. You may hear item check functionality. So this is the let's say it's the biggest change in the IPS 2021. So EAD check functionality. So in the EAD check functionality, check if there is a EAD alert in the CDS or QCS big data. So every time you scan by configuration, every time you scan EMB or EMC or both, IPS checks if the item has some EAD alert. And there are four types of the EAD alert. And one is there's no data regarding EAD, and there's no ITMAT message, and no if there is no pending referrals, and if there's no do not load message. So by configuration, IPS checks those EAD alerts. Okay, for instance, if you configure IPS to check if the item has ITMAT message or not, and you can also configure behavior of the IPS if there is no ITMAT message on the scanned item. So you can configure IPS just show a warning message or block the operation, or both. You can select the IPS behavior resulting from the EAD check. So, for instance, if you configure IPS to do so at the time of EMB scan, when you scan the item, when you scan EMB scan on the item, then IPS checks if the item has ITMAT or not in the QCS or HQCS. If there is no ITMAT message, IPS gives warning message like like this, like right side, and IPS gives a warning message, and by your configuration, IPS blocks the item. So if you select IPS to block the item, you cannot go further unless you capture customs declaration on the item. Then you can go further. So this is the biggest change in the IPS 2021, and you may hear about referrals. And European Union, when you send item to European Union that containing goods, European Union postal operators will send you so-called item ref message that contains a customs decision, mostly relevant to the border security, aviation security or border security. And IPS checks if the item has referral, a customs decision made by European Union. And if there is opening referral, pending referral, such as request for information or request for scanning or do not load, IPS also gives you a warning message. And by your configuration, IPS blocks the item and prompts you to do do further action, such as remove the item from the receptacle or doing some additional screening on the item. So unless you do the further action, IPS doesn't allow you to go further by your configuration. If you, yeah, let me zoom in. So if you select IPS to block the operation, you cannot go further. If you uncheck block the operation, you can just see the warning message and you can go further. But if you select block the operation, IPS blocks the item from inserting in the bag and closing the bag. So under the national management, you have a new screen, configuration of EAD check status. And you can configure the IPS behavior from this screen. And relevant to that screen, to this functionality, IPS also gives AR flag. Maybe some of you here have heard about AR flag, applicable regulation flag. So EAD check functionality checks when you close the consignment. When you close a consignment, EAD checks if the item in the consignment has EAD alert or not. If there is no EAD alert, the item is in the consignment, IPS allows you to close the consignment and give AR flag 1. So this is the requirement from the IATA, I guess. And if there is an item that has EAD alert, IPS doesn't allow you to check, allow you to close the consignment. You may need to remove the item or doing further action, such as doing additional screening or give more information on the item or capture customs declaration on the item. Unless doing so, IPS doesn't allow you to close the consignment. So those are the new the main changes in the new functionality in the IPS 2021. And once you upgrade your IPS to your 2021, you will see the new screens. And our recommendation, our general recommendation is that you would test the new version of IPS on your test environment and learn. First, you need to learn the new functionality, then upgrade your production version of IPS to the newest version of the IPS version. So this is the general process. Okay, I think I covered everything today except for functions. So I will show you some possibility in the IPS to customize your scanning screen and how you can print CN65 non-statistical for letter mail dispatches tomorrow morning. Okay. Do you have any questions and comments so far? I don't see anything in chat box. Okay, I don't see any hand. Yes. Okay. Okay. Tomorrow I will show you outbound operation and inbound operation. And I had a question for CN65. I will show you operation for letter post because I need to show you how you can print CN65 for outbound letters. Yes, I think you have. Yeah. Maybe I can ask Miss Yu Yang. She can manage to give you the video you recorded, I guess. Yeah, can you share the recorded the session for after the session?
I will upload the recording to Google Drive.
Okay, and I will send you the presentation I showed you for I showed the audience during my presentation. That contains IPS 2021 changes. I'll send you by email.
Okay.
Okay. If there is no question, I'll close the session today, and